turn it back to you, Jason.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Burkinda. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. I know summertime is a time of vacations and a lot of people are out and about, but we have a fantastic guest speaker for you today and really appreciate you taking the time. I think you'll really enjoy this. I understand that Vinny Valdez was the star at last week's Toll Insight event. So Burkenda reached out to him and said, "Hey, we would love to have you speak at our membership meeting." For those who tuned in and expecting a conversation about MNAP and aviation, that is going to be pushed until August. So August 27th, and we'll have a slide on that. So wanted to give a couple of OmniAir updates, and then we will quickly move to our guest speaker. Let's go to it. Next. So for those who are not familiar with OmniAir, we are 85 members from around the world. We have a very broad membership from automotive OEMs to technology suppliers, systems integrators, device manufacturers, research institutions, and of course, infrastructure owner-operators. And we think that gives us a 360-degree view of the problems associated with interoperability for tolling and for connected vehicles, and allows us to build certification programs that meet the needs of all of the end users. If you are not yet an OmniAir member, please click on that QR code for more information or reach out to any of the staff here, and we'll give you some more information. Next, please. So I don't know if we have Jeff Varick on the call. Don't know if Jeff is around today. But we do welcome Jeff from Brand Motion, is the newest OmniAir board member. Jeff is the founder and CEO of Brand Motion, and they do quite a bit in the aftermarket space. All CV2X deployments to date are by definition aftermarket, at least in the United States. And Jeff and his team have been doing an outstanding job in preparing fleets, transit fleets, emergency vehicle fleets, other fleets with V2X devices. They also have some of their own solutions in vehicle, and we're just really excited to have Jeff on the board. He'll be serving through the end of 2028. Typically, our board elections are at the end of the year, so if anyone is interested in throwing their hat in the ring for service on the board, it's a 3-year term. We do have 3 open seats right now, and we always have a rotation going on. So in October, we'll do a call for nominations. Look for that. If you're interested, you have questions, reach out to myself or one of our board members. I see Frank Perry is on the phone and can talk a little bit more about service. But thank you to Jeff, and congratulations on his election. Next, please. So just wanted to mention for a second on surveillance. We've conducted some recent surveillances of certified OmniAir products. This is a lesser known part of our certification program. It's intended to provide confidence and ensure the integrity of the program. Sometimes when devices have been certified and deployed, that's a snapshot in time. Things can happen. There can be drifts in components with the same product number. You can have changes in the manufacturing facility. Firmware can have an impact on the performance of the tags, readers, and OBUs, RSUs. And so we do have mandatory surveillance is built into our system for vendors to provide that assurance. Sometimes we do recertifications at the request of the vendors, and sometimes if an agency will call it out, we'll require a vendor to go through that mandatory surveillance, and we've conducted 2 in the past month. And that is, and you can see those 2 there, Neology and Star Systems. But these happen all the time, and we just wanted to make folks aware of that. And this is the subject of some consideration in our certification policy working group, which Lori Brady on the line is chairing, about what that process should look like in the future. And she's doing an outstanding job working through that. Next, please. So we're also doing some outreach. Yesterday, I participated in a Washington State Transportation Commission session on the future of connected vehicles and tolling. Washington State has been a real leader in RUC and also some other emerging technologies. The Transportation Commission, which sets toll rates and has the ability to do pilots, is really looking at connected vehicles, especially connected vehicles and tolling. So it was a privilege to have an opportunity to participate in that. I believe the presentations and videos are online, and thank you to George Christopher, who's online, for organizing that session. Next, please. So one thing that we are committed to doing is bringing the VitaX technology to the people. We want to make sure that it's not just the VIPs, the policymakers, were attendees at conferences who have an opportunity to see VitaX in action. We think it should be the people on the streets. And the first opportunity to do this, we've been working with Nick Hegemeyer of Drive Ohio, who also chairs ITS Midwest, and for their four-state region Midwest conference coming up in September. We're doing something a little bit unique. We have an entire corridor in Dublin, Ohio, which is right next to Columbus, where we are doing some live demonstrations. And it's not just VitaX, but it's also sensors and automation and some in-cabin activities. So far, we have 5 vendors lined up for that demonstration: Edifice, ISS, IT Telecom, OmniTrust, and I'm going to get the other one wrong. Brian, can you pronounce that?
Sonoid. Yeah.
Sonoid.
And this other ISS, not to be confused with former ISS, OmniTrust. This one does
That's great.
some camera detection, and they're going to demo in the evening. It's pretty cool. A sidewalk installation where when somebody enters into the crosswalk zone, it's almost like a spotlight hits you and follows you across the zone. It's a very cool technology. I've never seen such a thing.
Mhm.
We're going to post that right outside of the evening reception. So it's going to be fun. We have lots of intersections. We have 5 more spaces left. We wanted to keep it to 10. I'm halfway done. The city of Dublin, we're working with them hard. So they're going to install the RSUs. If you have RSUs, they're going to provide bucket trucks and help everybody get everything set up. That's included in the fee. So it should be a really great program, a great project. And like Jason touched on, Nick was mentioning that the people from a lot of the smaller regions can't really travel to ITS America or World Congress, and those are the buyers the people like they really want to see what the new tech
Mhm.
is, and that's something that they don't really get to do. So this is a really good opportunity to kind of touch base with the people who are the actual implementers of the technology, not necessarily their bosses who sign off on it at the end, but the people who are doing the hard work, researching and finding out which technology they actually want to deploy.
So, Ryan, if I'm a vendor, what do I need to do if I'm interested in being part of this demonstration? And do I get access to the show as well?
You get access to the show. We have 2 tickets for the vendors to access the show, lunch, all the presentations, everything they want. You can bring as many staff as you like to help out with the actual demonstration, but there's only 2 spots that are included with the sponsorship package. So I mean, it's a really great opportunity. It's with 4 states, lots of different people. I'm working with local media to try to get their attention to come in. Dublin seems to be a very transformative city. It looks a little bit small when you look at it, but they're doing a lot of great work, and there's a lot of energy in that area. So hopefully you guys can participate and come in. Like I said, there's 5 left. So if you have a technology that you'd like to demo and you have partners, just reach out to me or Nick Hagemeyer. It's probably easier to me because it'll come back to me at the end, or you can scan the QR code and it will fill out a form and then I'll reach back out to you. But
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we've had some successful demos. I see Roxanne's on here. We did some demos in Baltimore earlier this year, VitaX tolling and a few other things, even some robots running around. So I think we want to do more and more demos in the future. So if anyone has ideas for future opportunities after this, let us know. But in the meantime, reach out to Ryan and Will Simon, who is also on the call. Next, please. So just to summarize, we have several new initiatives that I think are worth getting involved in. Start with Nick Hegemeyer has a sensor certification program. If you think about VitaX rarely operates in isolation, especially in a connected intersection environment. There are usually cameras and LiDAR and radar involved. Also in a tolling gantry, if as we're starting to think about as the tolling industry is starting to consider V2X, there are also a multiplicity of other types of sensors that are there. And what does that mean? How do we ensure that these are working in concert and interoperable and sending correct messages? Nick has done a great job in starting a sensor certification group. We've been having meetings, developing a scope, and then that will later in the year move toward developing test cases. Right now, that activity is open to anyone. So if you're interested in that, whether you're a member or not, please get involved. Network V2X, Ted uh, Sadler is leading that activity with WSP, and that is really thinking about, well, a lot of agencies are considering moving to V2N network because it's scalable, cheaper. But what does that really mean? How do you convey the same trust that you have in um, certified hardware to where there's not hardware, there's very light footprint hardware, and you're sending messages through the cloud? How do you make sure that those applications and then sort of delivery mechanisms and whatnot are trusted? And that's what that group is tackling. And I think they're doing some fantastic work putting together a scope. And if you want to get involved, I know they're recruiting. V2X tolling, we have a whole working group that Pooja from HNTB is leading. And that has just formed several new Tiger teams, developing test cases on 3217/R, which is more in-vehicle payments. And then also field testing. I think it's really important. Our current OBU certification program and RSU certification program has relatively little field testing requirements. But tolling, it's very extensive and properly so. So what of those requirements do we carry over to this new program? That is subject to that Tiger team, and encourage everyone to get involved. Finally, we are going to start, and I don't know exactly when we'll start engaging the members, but connectivity in aviation. So V2X in the skies, there's this concept called universal electronic conspicuity. Um, oh, well, universal electronic conspicuity, it is the idea of using multiple cellular communications, wireless communications technologies to allow UAVs, advanced air mobility, other GA aircraft to be visible to each other. So similar to ADS-B, but using a different set of technologies that may be more appropriate for different aircraft type. And so that's really, we're really in the testing phase and prototyping, and there is a contract. Let's move to the next slide. And we haven't talked that much about it, but OmniAir is a subcontractor to a US DOT contract. It's part of a Tripius IDIQ, which is a multi-year contract vehicle that will do several things. The first task order out of that is called MNAP. It's focused on the Mobile Network Aviation Assessment Program. It's a US DOT HAAS COE as well as ARPA-I initiative. It's focused on electronic conspicuity, and it's really testing these concepts. And so there are prototypes that are being built. There is an app that NASA has developed that will be testing as well for appropriate for general aviation. Southwest Research Institute is the prime contractor. We are supporting in a sub role, but you can see below our scope of work over the next so many years focused on this. One thing where we think we will be engaging members is stakeholder identification engagement, what they're calling a community of practice. And we really want to take the expertise in development of this technology, as well as some of the modules that are out there in the V2X space, some testing capability, a lot of similarity, the V2X in the terrestrial environment to the aviation environment. And we want to get that expertise and apply that to what I think is a very exciting process, is bringing connectivity into the skies. V2X really was never meant to be just terrestrial. It's multimodal, always has been, and now this is making that a reality. So look forward to more about that. And then next month, next please, we will have speakers on that. So Jason John Michael from the US DOT Highly Automated Safety Systems Center of Excellence and Mike Brown, who are leading that project, will be coming and talking about the concept of MNAP and what that program looks like, and how you as members can get engaged in that activity. And thank you very much. Next. So I'm going to go through our working group updates in rapid fire so we can get to our speaker, which I think we're all here for. Let's go get started very quickly. So the Certification Policy Working Group, Lori Brady is leading that activity. And as I mentioned, they're looking at our program scope for all of our certification programs, as well as the CVCA, which is for connected vehicles, and for our tolling program as well, making sure that surveillance process language is consistent across all. What are those requirements that should fall on the vendors? What are some of the business rules associated with that? And how do we make sure that the surveillance program is consistently applied and is appropriate for all of our certification programs? And I know Lori is always looking for great volunteers. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, reach out to Lori or myself, and we'll get you involved. Cybersecurity Working Group is really focused on IEEE 1609.2 and .2.1 standards, and also looking at some of the security aspects of V2X tolling and feeding that into the back into the tolling working group. There is one document that we considered a test document developed before PlugFest. We validated at PlugFest. It's focused on misbehavior detection and reporting. So thinking about the V2X devices that are sending rogue messages, whether intentionally or maliciously, or unintentionally or maliciously, how do we detect and address those? Those test cases are now in what we call a 30-day IP review, so they're available to all members to review. And we anticipate the board to take action on that in September. Next, please. Tolling Emerging Payment Technologies Working Group, that is Jake Royer. Big focus has been, there is a new version of a 6C spec. 6C Coalition we have worked with since the inception of our 6C certification program. We, of course, certify based on OmniAir test cases and interpretation of the ISO standard. We do take into consideration the 6C specification, and we try to align as much as possible that specification with our test cases. In some instances, there are issues that have to be worked out, where maybe the 6C specification was a little bit prescriptive. I mean, one example is that they required using Ford F-150s in testing, and that was a bit odd. But we are trying to have that alignment, so we're in that dialogue right now, and that's a focus of that group. We have there's a new Tiger team focused on field testing requirements that Jake is also leading for V2X based tolling, and so getting some inputs there, and talking generally about some of the ongoing testing work. RUC, we have a leadership opportunity. Stella Joseph, after 3 years of service, outstanding service, has stepped down. We are seeking a new leader for that group, and that group is really focused on road usage charge. Some of the 3217 /R activities there are going to move over to the V2X tolling working group, but stakeholder outreach, as well as some of the common elements, business rules associated with the sort of in-house certification that agencies are doing, Caltrans and Oregon and Utah, Washington State. How can we convert that into more of an outcome-based test cases and validation process? So that activity is really the focus of that group. If you're interested in taking a leadership position, reach out. This is a great opportunity to do it. I know you're surrounded with some of the best of our volunteer members, and I think it's a great opportunity. Next, please. Technical Working Group, Frank Perry, continuing to advance our certification services, taking a look at some of the feedback that's been coming in from Network V2X Working Group, and we'll be kind of focused on that. I know that there was a meeting canceled last month, and so expect to get that back on track early next month. Frank, anything you'd like to add there that I missed?
Thanks, Jason. No, and I think the meeting wasn't canceled. We moved the time for last month for
very
this
good.
month. So yeah.
Okay, move the time. So, and then hanging off of that working group, we have a sub-working group that Ted Sadler is leading on Network V2X. Very productive meeting last month, where I think we came up with what we think will be a 3-tiered framework for this, looking at testing of applications, the distribution systems, and the platforms. There's a draft of this, I believe, that is now in circulation with the um, with the full technical working group, and we really want some feedback on that approach. And we're also recruiting speakers from carriers and from others that have experience in deploying Vita N solutions. We want to make sure that as we develop a new certification program, it meets your needs as stakeholders. And of course, we're always recruiting. So if you're interested in joining, please reach out. Next, please. Think that should be it. Oh, RSU. Sub working group. Let me focus on two things. One, there's a Tiger team on ITE 4001 that's been making fantastic progress, and next meeting is early August. We have a connected intersection Tiger team which is focused on traffic symbol controller certification for SPAT applications. We're in coordination with ITS JPO. We just had a call last week on that, and we expect that activity to really ramp up with strong FHWA participation in January of 27. Sensor certification is really one of the best attended working groups. And again, we are looking at how do we provide some trust in that LiDAR, radar, and other sensors that are being deployed in concert with VDX. So again, lots of opportunities to get involved. And hopefully I haven't taken up too much of your time. Really want to get to our guest speaker. Rakenda, let's move on to the guest speaker. Skip these others. We'll go to the guest speaker. I think it's time. So I'm excited. I've heard great things about Vinny's presentation last week at Toll Insight, which I missed. He is a longtime OmniAir member, Chief Toll Operations Officer for the past 5 years, which is impressive, with the Transportation Corridors Agency. For those who are not familiar with TCA, or the toll roads as it's known, it is one of the most beautiful parts of the country in Orange County, California. So we're all a little bit jealous. That's where he starts his morning. And Vinny serves on the BTTA Board of Directors. He is active member of the Emerging Technologies and Revenue Assurance Working Groups. And he is the vice chair of something near and dear to our hearts, which is the NIOP Committee for National Toll Interoperability. I want to ask Vinny to turn his camera on, and the floor is yours, sir.
All right, my camera should be on. Let me get myself in position here. Share my screen. Bear with me just a second. Cross my fingers, and here we go. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Really excited to be here. Vinny Valdez, Chief Toll Operations Officer for Transportation Corridor Agencies, or TCA. Okay, so a little on TCA. TCA, we're actually, fun fact, we're two agencies, two tolling agencies, legally speaking, two agencies operating as one, hence the name agencies, plural. We're in southern Orange County here in California, the Orange County. Took our first tolls in 1996. And fast forward to today, we operate 4 toll roads, 77 lanes or toll points, consisting of 51 centerline miles. In terms of volumes, across our 4 toll road facilities, we do about 100 million transactions a year, translating to about 400 million in toll revenue. If you add penalty revenue to that, it's another 60 million. So, coming up on $500 million a year. And we just turned 3 million fast track accounts, a milestone we're pretty proud of. Those who work with us, know we got a lot of things going on. We're very, very active, and have been executing on our board of directors strategic plan, right? Some of, just a few key initiatives we've got going on. tolling, working on an RFP for our next tolling system. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We're focused on providing back office related services to partner agencies here in the Southern California area. Um, a couple years ago, we began processing tolls and violations and doing customer service for the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, or SBCTA. And then earlier this year, a few months ago, we signed a cooperative agreement to do back office related work for our neighboring tolling agency, Sandag to our south. And we're talking with a new tolling agency in Northern California in the Sacramento area called CARTA about, we're talking about doing the same kind of work for them. And in fact, we're negotiating a cooperative agreement with them right now. And then, yes, we're very active on the national interoperability scene, right? Not letting the challenges that we have here in California in the form of legislation, be too much of a barrier there. What I mean by that is, California legislation, state level legislation prohibits, well, doesn't prohibit it. It gets in the way of tolling agencies in California being establishing interoperability, full interoperability in two directions anyway, outside the state. So we've got an effort going on literally as I speak to try and get some legislative changes in there that would address those impediments and allow us to fully participate, excuse me, in national interoperability. But in the meantime, we continue to participate in national interoperability efforts like planning and establishing of business rules and technical standards and things like that. So very active there as well. All right. So picking up on the tolling RFP that we're working on, because we have a unique need here, our RFP is going to be structured to reflect that, right? And we've done an industry announcement, and a lot of the information I'm going to go over here was in that industry announcement, letting prospective bidders know that, that this is coming. All right, so what do we need? So, the first part, or option A, is a tech refresh, a straight up tech refresh for our current roadside system, right? We got 77 toll points. Our system went in, before my time, 2014-ish. The system went live in 2015. And so it's 10 years old, right? And although it's performing really well, no complaints whatsoever, it's getting old and, approaching the end of its useful life. We're long past the point of having, achieved a return on our investment. And so, it's time for an upgrade. Option B is I'll talk a little more about that in a second. It's for an express connector, right? It's a future, right? We're hoping to start construction later this year on an express connector and we can see this on a map in a second, but it's going to join the northern tip of our toll road. In fact, I'll go back one slide so I can point at where it is here. Right here, you can see where the northern tip of our 241 toll road connects to basically intersects with the 91 express lanes, which is operated by the Orange County Transportation Authority. So today, if you're going up on this toll road here and you want to get onto the 91 East going towards Riverside, so this is where folks in southern Orange County and northern San Diego County might go if they're going out to Vegas, right? Or they're going out to the desert. So you get a lot of weekend traffic here in particular. It's a heavy commuter route during the week. And then on Friday afternoons, it becomes a big old mess, gets really backed up. And there's just no way around it. You try going this way, it's going to be worse. Going up to 55, it's worse. So the Express Connector project is much anticipated, a very complex project. I'll talk more about it in a second, but a lot of folks looking forward to this Express Connector going in. When it goes in, what I should say is that it will provide a direct path. It'll be tolled and it'll provide a direct path from this toll facility directly into the express lanes of the 91. Today, you have to sort of go on up on the 241, go into the general purpose lanes of the 91 going eastbound, and then sort of uh, merge your way across like 4 or 5 lanes of traffic, or weave across 4 or 5 lanes of traffic to get into the express lanes, so you can continue your journey. So a much anticipated project there. But because the tolling system and the functionality that we need on that connector is unique and complex by its nature, um, that's going to be a separate part of that same RFP, right? To provide the system for that connector. And then option C is going to be to provide for those proposers that respond to option A and option B. Option C is basically a combination of the two at a combined price, right? That presumably would represent some technical and operational efficiencies in doing both. Okay. Okay, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but so for a straight up tech refresh, right? What I'll say here is, we have traditional system components. We have loop-based detection and classification, um, license plate reading, traditional host and roadside architecture. Everything here, pretty traditional, at least as it was, the technology was 10 years ago. Oh, before I do leave this slide, yeah, we are interested in new technologies, right? But because we toll on our existing network, right, based on a combination of time of day, axle count, right? And excuse me, yeah, time of day and location and axle count, accuracy is very important to us. System accuracy. So as we contemplate, newer technologies, right? In particular, camera-based detection and classification. We're open to that, right? We'd like to do that, right? Lighter weight roadside deployments. But our standards they have to meet our performance standards. Have to. Okay. We don't have much room to give on that.
Can I just interject with a quick
Absolutely.
question? Do you have a specific performance standard for accuracy? Is it 99 point?
In our contract today, right, using our 10-year-old equipment, 99.95% accuracy.
That is minimum. Okay.
Yeah.
And then is that, and do you anticipate that continuing to be the requirement?
That's our starting point
Okay.
as we anticipate evaluating new technologies, Jason. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
with traditional solutions, we know we can get this, right? It comes down to, right, that accuracy needs to be there, right? When it's not, you lose revenue, right? So
Oh,
it's got to be
sure.
there. So, we anticipate evaluating new technologies or alternative proposals. We get it that there's trade-offs, right,
Hmm.
involved
Hmm.
in considering new technologies. We anticipate evaluating those and making the choice that seems best for us.
Excellent. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Okay, I want to watch my time here. So option B, right, the second part, right, is like I said, focuses on the needs of the Express connector. Like I said, this is a very heavily congested corridor. You can sort of get a sense of that in this picture, right? This blue, it's a conceptual uh, image of what that express connector will look like, right? It's northern tip of the 241 toll road, flying over the 91 express lane, general purpose lanes. You can see the traffic heading east here, pretty heavy, and boom, dropping you into the eastbound express lanes. Given the geography here, we've been working with partner agencies, right? The OCTA, Orange County Transportation Authority, which operates the western portion of the express lanes, which and really owns this or operates, I should say, the express lanes where we'll be touching down. And then as you head farther out east out here into Riverside County, you cross the county line into Riverside County. So we're also working with the Riverside County Transportation Commission, RCTC, and then Caltrans, our state DOT that by statute owns the state highway system, right? So in in working with our partner agencies, right, they in order to for them to support this project, right, it was very important for us for to them, excuse me, to them, right, that this express connector does not take a bad situation and make it worse, right? We can totally make things better by introducing this express connector and improving overall throughput through this area. But on the flip side of that coin is that if this traffic, this volume, the demand on this connector is not very effectively managed, right? It can flood the express lanes, right? It could just overwhelm the express lanes and just cause everything to excuse me, breaking down. So we worked with our partner agencies on that, right? Was truly and still is truly a collaborative effort, right? To talk and think about how this express connector will run and will be managed. And so, in working with them, we came up with a traffic demand management approach that's progressive in nature. And in fact, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. But um, um, involves taking progressive steps to throttle back volumes on that connector. And with that, we coined the phrase progressive demand management, right? And determined that, hey, that approach is pretty cool and it should work in terms of, us being able to throttle back and manage demand. But that strategy can be undermined by violators, right? By those who don't, obey the rules. And I'll explain that on the next slide. Anyway, We hope to start breaking ground later this year by way of timing, and we're on our plan is to open to traffic by the end of 2029. So, looking out 3 years. Okay, still doing okay on time. Okay, so here, and I'll spend some time here, for this group, focusing on the technical aspect of it. So let's start with the steps involved in progressive demand management. So what we're looking at here, and you don't have to try reading every word on this slide. What this is a pictorial representation of the 241, right, heading north, and this blue represents the new approaching lane and the express connector that drops down, as we just saw, into what we call the critical zone of the 91 express lanes heading eastbound out towards Riverside County. So here are all the signs that you'll see as you approach the connector. And so, picking up on the progressive demand management concept, there are 4 levels of control, right? So during the week, we don't anticipate, as much traffic as we see on the peak during peak volumes. But the first level of control will be pricing, right? Dynamic pricing, right? And affecting demand that way. So, folks are coming up this way, and the price that they see here is more than they want to spend, right? They'll continue straight, and they'll do the same thing they do today, which is to go into the general purpose lanes of the 91. And so our goal here in managing demand is going to be to keep it within, certain thresholds, right? That'll be established. And so if dynamic pricing, right, particularly as peak hour approaches by itself, right, is not enough to affect, to keep, oops, excuse me, to keep within, um, traffic thresholds, then a ramp meter that'll be right here. It'll be here actually, but ramp meter will turn on. Okay. And then if that isn't enough, right, to keep volumes within thresholds, well, then the connector itself can go into HOV mode, right? So you'd have to have 2 or 3 people in the vehicle in order to go on to the connector. Otherwise, you're going to have to go use the general purpose lanes. Excuse me. And then if that doesn't, achieve the volume targets, then the last step is to go into a mode where you have to be either a bus or a registered van pool to get on that connector. And we have very few of those. So this is almost akin to closing the connector altogether.
Well, let me ask a question. On any
Sure.
of your facilities today, do you have an HOV or HOT component?
No, this is new for us. Even though this express connector here, Jason, is less than a mile long, right? It is effectively an express lane. And so it's taking us TCA, who traditionally we've been operating for traditional toll roads, into the world of express lanes and all of the issues and challenges that come with it.
Oh, wow. Fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. So, speaking a little bit about, or speaking, all right, so those are the 4 levels of demand management, right? Again, progressive in nature. And picking up on the concept that this strategy, right, can be undone by cheaters. And what do we mean by that? Right? Folks that don't, we all see this today, at least those of us in California do, the folks that don't listen to or pay attention to the ramp meters and just what we call jump the meter, right? We call them, meter jumpers. We assign everybody a pet name, but this person is a jumper. And then the other form of cheating is with regards to HOV, right? So we're gonna have we anticipate offering discounted prices on the connector, right? Or travel free if you're a carpool, right? An HOV. And then, like I said, there'll be times of day where, particularly during peak hour, where the connector is in HOV only mode, right? So think about that person that's one person in the vehicle, and whether it's to obtain the free toll or to access the connector when it's in HOV mode, they go and they set their switchable transponder to two or three people, right? So we call that HOV cheating, right? And so that can also undermine our strategy. So enforcement itself becomes a very important topic here. And so, are working with California Highway Patrol, CHP, to on enforcement strategies. Using traditional law enforcement deterrence, right, by virtue of their presence, and then by writing some pretty expensive citations if they happen to catch you behaving badly on that connector.
And so if you're working with law enforcement, is there a cost to the tolling agency that would be a reason why you would look to automated solutions for enforcement, or
Uh,
does that not really hit your budget?
yes, we do pay for California Highway Patrol for enforcement services. But they, in their grander scheme of things, right, can't guarantee that they'll be in a given place at a given time, right? If they're out there, if they would otherwise be out enforcing on the connector and in that area, and there's like a high profile event nearby, criminal event, right? Crime being committed of some sort, their priority is going to be, safety, and tending to that, as opposed to enforcing this. So, whether it's because of their competing priorities or, they just can't be out there for a variety of reasons 24/7, right? So we said, okay, we want to complement, I gotta watch my time. We want to complement, their traditional enforcement with automated deterrence, right? So going back to the ramp meter, right? Our concept is that there be a camera-based automated enforcement there, right? It's sort of a variation on a traditional red light camera solution, right? Where instead of enforcing a red light of a traffic signal, you're enforcing the red light of a ramp meter. Okay, slightly different in camera programming, as you might imagine, and on what constitutes a violation. But very similar concept, right? Detect the vehicle, detect when it's passing the stop line when the light's red, and then report that violation back towards the tolling system and the back office system, so that we can either issue a violation or charge a higher toll, right? That exact strategy will be finalizing over the next few years as we approach going live. But the concept is detect the violation, detect the event for purposes of issuing some sort of deterrent, whether it's a higher toll or a penalty. And then the other form of enforcement, right, it would be for the HOV, for the HOV cheaters, right? And, so we have an interest in occupancy detection there, right? To detect cheaters, HOV cheaters, so that we could do the same thing, right? Whether it's issue a penalty that would be provided for by the California Vehicle Code, or charging a higher toll, creating some sort of deterrent to cheating. Okay, so won't spend a lot of time here, but here's some of our buying considerations, right? As we think about options A and B together there, right? And like I was saying before, associated performance KPIs are very important for us. What I'll end on today is the technical considerations, right? The system we need, right, right now does not exist as a single solution where you open a box, take it out, and there it is, right? We need dynamic pricing with progressive demand management capability, which, we looked out. We won't swear on that this capability doesn't exist, but if it does, we haven't seen it, right? Neither have our consultants deployed today, this strategy that I was describing before, right? We want a ramp meter, right? With automated enforcement, occupancy detection and enforcement. We need the changeable message sign and variable toll message signage that I was pointing at earlier. And we need all of that integrated with roadside and back office systems, right? So, our leadership, gets a little nervous when I say this, but I keep it real by saying, look, when it comes time to install that tolling system on that connector, it is by definition, right? By definition, it's a high risk project, right? And so, the conversation with stakeholders is, all right, well, what are you going to do about that? We can't have a big old mess out there when it comes time to go live with this, right? So, the conversation is, well, we get the answer to that is we start working on risk mitigation right now, right? And really make sure that we've got effective testing strategies, right? Number one, get your requirements right. Number two, pick the right partner. Number three, get your testing strategies so that you start looking for problems, right? During the testing phases, right? You can sort of, those of us with experience in, one or more of these individual technologies, like red light cameras, for example, you have a sense of where things can go wrong, right? So, okay, let's make, what is it we can do during factory acceptance testing, unit testing, to make sure that the unit itself is functioning properly. Okay, next is the very important integration testing, right? And making sure that, events get detected and flowing through the tolling system towards our back office system. And making sure the accuracy is there, and making sure that everything's working the way it should. And then, when it comes time to go live, and it's the acceptance testing, right? And coming up with very comprehensive acceptance testing strategies, right? Again, to try and flush out problems during the testing, before opening the gates, so to speak, and going live to traffic. All right, Jason, that's it from me. Thanks a lot.
Excellent. That was
questions. Yeah.
That was a fantastic presentation. I'm sure we'll have lots of questions from folks, but just right off the bat, like when you take a systems integrator approach, what are you doing to mitigate some of the technology risk? And I know that's something that's probably on your mind, because you're trying to piece together several really interesting, unique technologies. And what are kind of the steps you're taking?
Sure. I mean, so I'll build off what I was saying before. The it starts with getting your requirements right, right? Being a smart shopper, knowing what you want, um, making the marketplace, which is something we're doing right now. In fact, right now, literally, making sure the market is aware of our need, right? So we can sort of draw attention to um, uh, the attention of prospective, bidder proposers, to our needs, right? And then with that, through our procurement process, identify, and that's why we broke it up, right?
Yeah.
So that way we can have either, we've got the flexibility to have best of breed solutions for both. Refreshing our network, existing network, and meeting the unique needs of that connector. In our world, if one provider can provide both, great, right? That's
Yeah.
fantastic. But building that flexibility into our RFP is step one of the answer to your question, which is what do you do to mitigate risk?
And
Then
before, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to say then the testing, right,
Yeah.
is as the and having an aggressive test strategy to try and find those problems, like I say, in the lab, so to speak.
Well, we're big fans of testing. If there's anything
Mhm.
that OmniAir community could do to help, we're happy to do
Sure,
it.
sure.
What's your before I open the floor to questions, you may have mentioned this, but timing, do you have a sense on timing when this hits the street, or is it on the street right now?
Um, the RFP should hit the street couple months,
Okay.
September. Let's
All
go,
right.
if we run behind, let's call it Q4, but definitely well before the end of the year.
Okay. All right. That's some news for the members. So I'm sure that a lot of people are excited about that. Let me open the floor to anyone who has a question. I saw Roxanne put something in the chat box about Lev, but I know you were on Lev's event last week, and you probably know him well. Everyone knows Lev, but I think
Absolutely.
she said he's doing some in-person event at VDOT, and that it may be worth your while to participate in that.
He talked to me about, unfortunately, I got a conflict going those dates. I think it was September 1 and 2.
Yeah,
It was early September.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
unfortunately.
do we have any other questions from the group? Could raise your hand or just speak up.
There's a question from Anthony Lopez that says, what might a lab test look like?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so it's unit testing, right? Taking the pieces individually, the occupancy detection, the ramp enforcement, the tolling system itself, and just making sure that it meets a requirement. So really testing it unto itself, each system component unto itself, before you start, connecting the wires, speaking figuratively, but starting to connect everything up together and seeing the solution function as a whole during the integration testing. That might not be done out on the roadside either, right? So by lab, I don't mean a physical lab, but I mean not on the before doing the testing, before you start installing the equipment out on the roadway.
Excellent. Let me ask a question. I don't know if it's relevant to the RFP, but you guys have been real leaders in trying out different technologies, and I know that you guys have one of the highest percentages of tolls paid through smartphone apps, and you've done some work on connected vehicle-based tolling. I mean, where do these new and emerging technologies kind of fit in your kind of vision for where you see the future of electronic toll collection
Sure.
moving?
So what guides us is really our agency strategic plan, which for anybody that would have an interest in reading it, it's posted on our website. But a strategic plan objective is to evaluate new and emerging technologies, looking for ways to increase customer experience, right? Enhance customer experience, through self-serving or making it easier to use our service, easier to contact our contact center, things like that. Or we also look for those solutions that create operational efficiencies, right? Lower our cost or allow us to do more with less. So those are really our two guiding principles. Yeah.
And if vendors are interested in piloting something that's a little bit outside the norm, are you open to kind of those conversations, or how
Totally.
should they should approach you guys?
All the time. I get vendors all of the time, right? And say, hey, and we love to, as I call it, window shop,
Yeah.
right? Talk to different folks about different approaches. Okay.
Excellent. Okay, we've got one question in the box from Roxanne.
I got time for one more. Then I really do need to leave. But Roxanne, what's
So what does the planning for equipment and back office maintenance and upgrades look like about 10 years down the road, especially? So if you could do that very quickly, I don't know how.
Planning? I didn't catch the first part of the question.
What does the planning for equipment and back office maintenance and upgrades look like? In parentheses, about 10 years down the road, especially. Maintenance, I think. Maintenance and upgrades.
Maintenance, yeah. I mean, our approach to, I'll start with roadside, is that our preference is, and most agencies do this, right, is after the system is installed, you pay the vendor to provide all levels of maintenance, right? First level, second level, third level. Some agencies do their own first level, right? They use their own resources for first level. But our plan looking 10 years out is to have had the vendor maintain the system along the way. And then after 10 years, like we did, take a look and see, okay, now what do we want to do? Do we want to continue with our current system, or is it time to do a tech refresh? We decided after 10 years it was time to do a tech refresh.
Makes a ton of sense. Well, thank you, Vinny. This has been fascinating to me personally, and I know to our members, and appreciate you being very generous with your time. And when the RFP comes out, let us know. We're happy to help get the word out.
Awesome. All right, you all have a great day. I need to run.
Thank you, Vinny.
You got it.
Well, thank you to everyone for joining us today for our monthly membership meeting. As we mentioned earlier, our next meeting is August 27th, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to be going to the skies and talking about the world of universal electronic conspicuity, and hope you're able to join us for that. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.